So welcome everybody to the fourth session on innovations with assessments for student learning that's coming out of our FACT2 Council. My name is Nan Travers, and as we go through our presentation, other members of the team that are going to be joining in today will introduce themselves as they come on, just to save time. We have a very fast schedule today, so I'm actually going to go quite quickly, and any kinds of questions that you have, we really appreciate if you would put it in the chat. This session is being recorded, which gives you the opportunity to go back and to share it with others. So just to begin here, the agenda that we're going to follow is, I just want to speak about the assessment task group, mention about the Jamboard and the website, looking at learning recognitions. Then the bulk of our presentation today is going to be around e-portfolios with Nicole Wade, Gina Solano, and Nikki Wilson-Claspy. And then we have Chris Stucker here from Brightspace, who will talk just briefly also about e-portfolios that are going to be our option as we go forward. So moving right along, the learning recognition assessments is a subgroup of the innovation in assessments for student learning. And we just want to take a quick second to thank Chilton Reynolds and Nicole Simon for leading that task group, and John Kane, who's the chair of FACT2. John was faithful and came to all of our meetings, even though he didn't need to, so we appreciate that. And the list of our committee members are there. You can see that we span across SUNY, so that's really great. And I also want to thank my co-chair, Janet Nepke, for all the support she has given to this group. The mission of the Innovative Assessments for Student Learning group has been to look at and explore new tools and emerging technologies and really thinking about different ways of assessing student performance. And we had 4 subgroups: the multiple pathways for assessment, real world assessment, diversity and equity, and today you're hearing about the learning recognition assessments. There is a Jamboard, and I'm going to quickly see if I can enter the URL to the Jamboard in the chat. And so please feel free to add to that. We already had some people go in early on and start to put some tags in there. We want to be able to do some follow-up, and we're hoping to hear a lot more from you on that. But addition, as I said at the beginning, please put any questions or comments also in the chat. Then I want to bring your attention to the website that we have developed on innovative assessments. I'm literally going to take 2 seconds here and just show it to you. The learning recognition assessments over here has a couple drop downs. You also can get a fuller picture by going down to learning assessments, learning more. And when you go in there, there's a background about learning recognition. And then we also have a section on concept maps and also on e-portfolios. In the e-portfolios section, we've got some videos. We also have some really good information. We have a section on the resources and tools and resources that you can learn about, and also frequently asked questions. So those are all important pieces to go for. So going back to our presentation, I do really hope you will go to the website and really explore it. We're going to touch a little bit about it right now. So overall, what we mean by learning recognition is that we're really looking at the learner as in the learner's kind of holistically, that there is learning that has acquired in many different ways, including our classrooms, but also outside of our classrooms, and really thinking to how do we start to recognize that completely as a full picture of what the learner knows and how well that learner is integrating different aspects of what they're learning together. And so we're really thinking about how we can build upon and integrate that learning and grabbing, being able to see that through different assessments. And so I'm really briefly just going to barely even touch some work that's come out of the cognitive sciences, but that we have a tendency to think about the learning that's taking place in our classroom as though that is the learning. But the way the brain works is that it is combining the prior learning with that new learning, the emergent learning, and converging them together. And it's a way of setting up a relationship of learning and being prepared for future. So when we go to assess, we're actually assessing part of that prior learning as well and integrating it in. And so as we look at the way that the brain simulates knowledge and integrates it, we get into even further information about the role of self-assessment, the role of inquiry, and the role of linking things together and transferring that knowledge. And so those become very critical aspects of the way that the brain is learning. And so when we look at learning recognition assessments, we're really trying to look at how the student is doing a self-assessment, how they're doing inquiry, and how they're transferring that information together and integrating it. So two of the areas that we have kind of built out a little bit is around concept maps and e-portfolios. It's just tools. Very quickly with the concept maps, they are a way to really get a sense of how students see the relationship among their knowledge and not be thinking about it in terms of just specific tasks around the knowledge. And so there's a way to really think about, you know, what is the student brought in? What is the new learning that they've acquired? How do they see those things linking together? And so there's a lot of work around concept maps, and on the website, we have some resources and some other information as well. So now I'm going to turn it over to Janet to introduce the e-portfolios and welcome our other speakers. And Janet, unmute.
Thank you. I just did that on purpose so we all don't forget to unmute ourselves. I want to thank Nan and also remind you that there is a wealth of material out there for you, some of it by committee members who will not appear. So I want to particularly mention Jonelle Troiseva, who is here with us but will not be making a presentation. She provided most of the sources for us and the facts, which Nan mentioned as well, the FAQs. I'm very pleased to be able to introduce our first speaker, Nicole Wade, also from SUNY Oneonta. And Nicole, would you please tell us your experience with the portfolios and your recommendations? Thank you.
Nicole, you are also on mute right now.
Taking Janet's lead. So I'm Nicole, and I work with secondary education students and ed tech students in the graduate level. And I have used eFolios since I've been at Oneonta since 2014. And I found when I was a student at SUNY Oneonta, it was a very thing in education to use eFolios in like the late 90s, early 2000s. So when I got to SUNY Oneonta, I thought this was a great way to help students with the interview process with trying to find a job. So if we can go to the next slide and the next slide. Okay, so I was walking down the hall. And it's funny how we gain inspiration from our colleagues. I stopped on the way to my class and we were talking about documenting learning. And I was like, tell me more about that. What do you do in your class? And she told me that she's been using Padlet, and every week they take the most important thing of the week that they've done and they document what they've done in the class. So at the end of the week, each week I went to my class and I would give them one key thing to put on their Padlet of what they've learned for the week. And at the end, we have 15 different artifacts. It's because each week they turn in a link to me in their Padlet in the Blackboard, and I give them feedback. on their weekly posts in their portfolio. And I think that students need to have a growth mindset. And if they know what they have achieved, now sometimes they think, oh, I haven't learned anything, I don't know anything. They can look back to their eFolio and they can really see the progress they've made in the class. So that's the rationale behind having a portfolio. Next slide. Are we able to click on the? Good. Now, this was a pilot of mine. I have not done it with this class before. So in the first week, I had them do my rules in the classroom. They're building their ideas for classroom management. I gave each student's quotes and they would say what empathy means to them. If you can scroll down, you can just scroll down quickly. I'll just say they write an article on CRT, critical race theory, whether they should have it in the schools or not. They have current issues. They do current events, worksheets, all kinds of current events. They documented their first lesson plan they ever wrote. How to write good objectives in lessons, what the pedagogical competencies are in education, and why they want to become a teacher. So far in my class, they have done the foundational things. Now, at the end of the semester, I will ask them for their final posting to write a philosophy of their education. And by doing that, they have documented their whole journey of what made them want to be a teacher. Next slide. One of the other ways that I incorporate eFolios is in my seminar for student teaching class. And they start to develop their portfolios in Education 254, which Dr. Solano will be talking about a little bit later. And we found that strong portfolios can make or break a candidate, and they just need to know the ins and outs of how to present their work in an effective way. And I think that with eFolios, a candidate can make a link and make either a hyperlink or a QR code, which QR codes are also an it thing right now. So an administrator can just take a look at your eFolio, and the employer might be impressed that you have taken that extra step and really showed that you have a commitment to finding a job. Next slide. This is an example of one of the portfolios that I have given in my class. So on the portfolio, I couldn't decide what I should use for their portfolios. I wanted to find something that was user-friendly. So I decided to go with Google Sites. Part of the reasons I use Google Sites, I can turn off my light here, is because they are well versed in Google in previous courses. So they know how to navigate Google Sites. But on this portfolio, they saved everything, their documents as PDFs in Google Drive, and they could easily just put artifacts in. And I wanted them to highlight their academic excellence. Sometimes when you're going to be a social studies teacher, there's a lot of specialty classes that you can take. And it's a good measure of what they have learned in their studies in the undergraduate level. One thing we want to see in students is like growth and development. And what I ask my students to do on each of their pages of their eFolio is to reflect on the category. And you'll see a list of categories on the next slide when we get to it. But I had them also highlight their views on literacy. And I instructed my students, I said, think about your best days of teaching. Tell me about your favorite thing that you did in the classroom. And they added them, and they have beautiful work at the end, because not only do the students present these portfolios, they get peer feedback. And when they get the peer feedback, then it's really nice because they get all different kinds of perspectives, and they might see something in someone else's portfolio, and it might inspire them to want to put that in their portfolio. So you can see that it is presented in a very clear way. I found that just from being someone that has interviewed a lot of people, I know that it's important. I know, I forgot what I was going to say. Whoops. I know it's important to have clarity. Looking very clean, very professional. Graphics are not supposed to, when you talk about instructional design, you really should think about the amount of white space you have. So I really like how it turns out on the portfolio here. And it's nice because they can see how they use technology, see what kind of teachers they are. Next slide. Or if you want to go to social justice, we can take a look if you'd like, but we can go forward. And this is the portfolio rubric. I found it was interesting that we talk about creating rubrics in our classes. So what we did with this rubric is we got a helping hand from the students. And we came up in our seminar with questions we wanted to be asked. Like what would be exemplary for them or exceptional? What would be adequate and what would be inadequate? So each student gets 5 feedback rubrics from their peers. Then we go back and then they get time to revise, and then they present the perfected copy, that final copy to me. And I use the same rubric. And I found that this procedure has been very successful in the class. And I plan to extend my use of portfolios in my graduate ed tech class, diversity and multiculturalism class, because they start that earlier in the program. Okay, the next, we'll go on to the next presenter. Thank you.
Thanks very much. All right, that's a great start. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Nicole Solano, pardon me, Gina Solano from SUNY Oneonta as well. Gina?
Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here. You can go ahead and jump to the next slide. So I'm going to start off with a brief video that I've put together that showcases several different types of portfolios and how I've used them. So if you'll click and then open the video. Thank you.
So give me 1 second. I unfortunately have to stop sharing and resharing so the sound comes through. I didn't realize that I was doing that. So hold on, and I will reshare.
Could you turn the volume up a little bit, maybe?
I have it at full
Okay.
see. Oh, wait. It is
Thank you.
full.
So that's my personal professional portfolio that I use as an example. And I model how I use my portfolio for my students, and they are typically education students. I've created portfolios to showcase service learning that I've done. And so it's not just classroom based. So this is a service learning project I did out in Utah, providing GE courses and tutoring to the people that were involved in drug court. That's just show. In my portfolios, I have videos, lots of different types of artifacts. So this is the one I've used in a STEM course. I'm sorry. No, yeah, it's an education course. This one is from a STEAM course. And so again, I've used Google Sites as well. I've also used Prezi and Adobe Express. Well, because my students are education students, a lot of them like to use Google Sites because they already have a lot of their materials in Google Drive. A couple of different universities I've worked for has used the portfolio system as part of a graduation and licensure requirement. So these are some examples of working at a department level portfolio program. In several of my own courses, undergraduate and graduate, I design portfolio projects for an end of course assignment. And again, I always include rubrics and reflection as important parts of designing the portfolio as well as assessing it. All right, thank you. All right, so during my time as an educator, I've used portfolios in lots of different ways, like I mentioned. So in 2 different universities I worked at, part of the teacher licensure requirements was for students to put together a portfolio. So by the time they graduated, they had to show competency in several different standards set forth by the state. So this is something that just a way of organizing and helping students to keep track of their artifacts and to match it with the standards. And then I linked it to the Utah standards and the Utah portfolio rubric that was a requirement. Go ahead and advance. And so for that program, the rubric was something that was decided upon the department, and it was a collaborative effort. So, it was very detailed. There's like 2 pages of it here. And we wanted to make sure that students knew exactly the type of artifacts that they need, what the standards were, and what the highest levels of expectation were for their artifacts so they can demonstrate competency, which showing the artifact is a better measure of a student's competency than memorizing facts for a test. And you can find study after study that will show that. And so not just teacher education programs, but a lot of other programs, as well as high schools now, are turning to portfolio systems instead and replacing standardized testing with portfolios. Go ahead and advance. So this is just the second part of that rubric. But as you can see, it does include reflections at the end of each semester, and they have to have an oral presentation of their portfolio by the time they graduate. Next. All right, so in my courses, like I mentioned earlier, I do e-portfolios quite often. And so I have links here to my project. So will this PowerPoint be available to participants? I'm not sure. Okay, great. So they can click on links and they can visit some of the resources that I have here. And when I design my assignments, I always have my lesson objectives at the top. So if you look at the yellow page right there, and In educational technology, we align our projects towards the ISTE standards, and International Society for Technology and Education. Then I always model. And so I like to give students choices. And so they have their choice on this particular project to use Adobe Express Page, Google Sites, or Slides, which is for me is kind of a lower, like Google Slides is not my optimum choice, or use Prezi next. And so Prezi is great, but it has its limitations because if a free account, you can only have a certain number of Prezis on your account. So that's why I have Adobe Express at the top and then Google Sites, because those are the easiest to use and the easiest to learn, and they have great free accounts. And then I provide some instructions on using Adobe and I have examples here for different Google Sites and previous student portfolios. Next, please. All right, so I am not sure if we can click on that, but here is a one from one of my graduate courses, and it's using Prezi. And Nan, you don't have to spend a long time, just kind of quickly click through, maybe about 2 seconds on each click. So this one is an Adobe Spark page, and I really liked how this turned out. And it's really different because you scroll up and the text scrolls and the pictures scroll. You can insert images. You can embed lots of different types of multimedia. Sorry, I thought that link went to the Prezi. This is an Adobe Spark page. No, but that's fine. Yeah. And go ahead and click next. Okay, so that's it. Yeah. So if you have any questions on how I went kind of quickly because I'm concerned about time, but lots of different ways, different platforms, making sure they have rubrics. I've used it in class. I've used it as a department. And so there's pros and cons for both. So if there's questions on that, just let me know and send them to me. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Spark, yeah, I like the questions. Spark is very professional and it doesn't have an easy learning curve. I agree. I really like the Adobe products.
Rena, thank you. That's wonderful. Our third speaker on this panel is Nikki Wilson-Clasby from the New Paltz campus. And we look forward to hearing from you, Nikki.
Hello, thank you very much, and thank you for having me. If you could click to the next slide, please, that's wonderful. So we have been, I'm going to talk to you about using ePortfolio assessment across a program. We use a Campus Press platform, which we have dubbed Hawk Sites, and we've been working with ePortfolios since fall 2019. So in the composition program at SUNY New Paltz, our students across all the courses that we teach are required to submit an e-portfolio of their work for external evaluation at the end of the semester, where we evaluate how successfully the students have satisfied our course learning outcomes. We teach the e-portfolio regularly throughout the semester so that it becomes a regular part of the writing process, where we aim to move students from drafting to seeing themselves as more sort of professional writers. And so to that end, we engage our students in customizing their Hawk Sites, curating their projects, converting essays from standard MLA format to writing for the web, and of course, reflecting on the writing process. So we have students create their ePortfolio sites at the beginning of the semester, and they send their links to their instructors so that we can monitor their progress on a regular basis. There's no submitting of work, it's just we have the link, we can tap in whenever we want to see what they're up to. So our instructors can use their ePortfolios however they want throughout the semester, and all of us use our ePortfolios in different ways. But for assessment purposes, we primarily use the ePortfolio for two distinct reasons. One, it's for our lower level composition courses. The assessment helps determine whether the student is ready or not to move on to the upper level 4-credit GE programs in writing and rhetoric, which range from the developmental writers to the advanced writers. And then for our upper level writing and rhetoric courses, the assessment serves as an exit ticket to make sure that the students have satisfied all the learning outcomes. So apart from that side of the assessment, we also use the e-portfolios to do our internal assessments. So for example, this year we are assessing basic critical reading on Common Final Day, and students will post their critical reading assessments responses, to the e-portfolio, where then we have immediate access for assessment purposes. So we can kind of kill two birds with one stone with the e-portfolios, which saves a lot of time. And it's much more pleasant to do it that way. So yeah, if we could go to slide number 2, thank you. So we have, so over the last 3 years, we've developed a pretty efficient system for our eFolio assessments. Here's the first hurdle right here, our assessment policy for e-portfolios. Not all students are eligible for an e-portfolio assessment. So what happens is our e-portfolios, we have e-portfolio partners, and at the end of the semester, we look at each other's e-portfolios to make sure that those learning outcomes are being met. And throughout the course of the semester, we have calibration retreats where we look at different e-portfolios, and we sort of grade them according to the rubric that we have. So our instructors are all basically on the same page. So at the end of the semester, we get together with a partner. We have a sample of around about 10 e-portfolios that we assess for each other. But students have to be eligible first. So in order to actually have that external assessment, the students are required to, they have to complete and submit all of their assignments. They don't necessarily have to pass them. It doesn't matter what grade they get. They just have to complete them. But they have to have a grade D as a minimum to be eligible also in their coursework to have that e-portfolio assessment. They have to have completed their library instruction. They have to have completed their oral presentations. So if the students have done all that, then they get to send off their e-portfolios to carry on over the last hurdle to get through the course. So we assess the portfolios like everybody else with a common rubric, and we assess whether the students have exceeded, whether they've met, whether they approach or have failed those assignments. So if we could have the next slide, please. We do have, for assessment purposes, to make sure that everybody is on the same page and we're conducting a fair assessment, we do have specific requirements for the content of the e-portfolios for assessment purposes. So as I said before, professors can use the e-portfolios however they want, but for assessment purposes, we have some very specific things that we look at when we grade them. So everyone has to have a reflective cover letter. This cover letter is an opportunity for the students to reflect on all the work they've done that semester and to articulate what they feel about their writing progress. And that reflective cover letter is proof that they have learned something. So it has to be written well, and they have to identify all of their writing demons in that reflective cover letter to prove they actually have accomplished those learning outcomes. So in addition to that, our lower composition classes, the students are required to submit 2 assignments in different genres, including the first drafts, so that we can see how they're moving from first draft to final draft. This work has to demonstrate that the students can do basic research, they have the ability to revise, obviously, and they show some proficiency in basic MLA documentation methods. So this is very much the foundation stuff of writing. And then in our English 170 upper level writing and rhetoric courses, the students are required to submit 1 major assignment and also the 2 smaller assignments which lead up to it. We have a structure in our upper level writing courses where we scaffold writing projects leading up to those bigger projects to try and help students be more proficient academic writers. So the upper level students need to demonstrate more advanced research skills. They need to demonstrate they have the ability to create arguments, and they have to show a proficiency in MLA documentation methods. So if we could, let me show you what this looks like. I think we've got some examples now of what that looks like. Hopefully this link works. Nan, if you could click the link at the bottom. This is one of our, it's on the other slide. Can we go back to the slide? If you hit the link that says link. Yes, so this is Megan's e-portfolio. This is an English 170 upper level writing and rhetoric student. So you can see how the e-portfolio is organized. So there's a reflective cover letter. And if you just want to click on a few things, the reflective cover letter is embedded right in here. And then let me show you brief assignment 1. Now for my students, I make my students do a reflection on all of their projects that they put into their ePortfolio, so that they're reflecting as they go along from assignment to assignment, making sure that they are understanding the writing skills that I want to teach them for that semester. We don't put these in as PDFs. I want my students to convert their MLA documents into web style articles so that they learn how to use, how to become proficient on a web-based platform. And also it's important for the reader. I want them to have a sense of audience. How is their audience going to read or engage with the materials that they have on the page? So embedding those videos and hyperlinks and stuff is crucially important here. Adds an extra layer.
Would you like to think of some final comments, please?
Yes. Am I out of time?
Pretty close.
Okay, let me just a couple of things I want to put in here. For ease of assessment, we have a couple of things that are really important in this ePortfolio. One is the academic integrity pledge that students sign. They also have, we also have a tab for permission to share and publish, which makes sharing of these ePortfolios for educational purposes so much easier afterwards. And I think we love ePortfolios. They're super efficient. Students love working in them. And as instructors, it makes the whole assessment process just so much more efficient and pleasurable. And that's it.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nikki. It's been fun to watch 3 such accomplished speakers move quickly but gracefully through their comments. So thank you very much. We at SUNY are getting ready to move to a new learning management system. Some of us have already begun that process. And naturally, we look to see what ePortfolio capabilities were there. I'm delighted that Chris Stucker has agreed, from D2L, has agreed to come give us a few moments information about that. Chris, thank you.
Yep. Hey, everyone. Chris Stucker. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
All right. I know I got 10 minutes, so I'll go really fast. So what I'm going to do today is talk about technical capabilities of the Brightspace portfolio tool. From here, you can use the use cases that you're all talking about and see how it fits with the tool that I will be showing you. So let's get started. About me, I'll keep it very, very simple. I'm the primary technical contact for SUNY and D2L Brightspace. I'm a senior implementation consultant. I've been doing this for about 20 some years. It's roughly in there. I feel old now. So so I've been working with all kinds of areas: admin, consulting, faculty, instructional design, and so forth. Well, let's get to the good stuff while you're here. Okay, so in Brightspace, we have a tool called Brightspace Portfolio. The Brightspace Portfolio tool is really meant to allow the learner to document their evidence artifacts throughout their educational journey with the online platform, which is Brightspace. The tool is really meant for the learners to upload their artifacts for someone to review, provide feedback based on a rubric, audio, whatever it may be. And I'll show you some screenshots a little later on. So in the Brightspace portfolio, the learners and or instructors or reviewers, whatever you want to call them, that are in a course together can look at all the evidence that the student submitted. That's very important. So from the institutional view, this allows the Brightspace portfolio tool to be deeply integrated with the platform as they take a course, whether they're a freshman, senior, PhD, whatever they may be. They can add their evidence throughout their course journey in the platform. The students will be able to see everything from the teacher side, faculty side, instructor side, whatever you want to call everyone. You'll be able to add your own feedback. You can give assessment information to the learner. Multiple individuals that can view the portfolio can leave their feedback. The student on the flip side can see what has the reviewer said, how can I improve, and so on. So you get the teacher, instructor view, and then lastly here, the learners. The learners, this Brightspace portfolio tool will be a place for them to upload their work. As we know, as we evolve, I think composition was the last speaker. As you mature and grow, maybe in the very beginning, you have entry-level courses, you document something, whatever it may be, how you compose. Then the very end, as you get older, as a senior, you'll have more senior level courses, and you can compare and contrast different courses together. Maybe, I don't know, it's up to you. So there's a lot of different use cases on how to use Brightspace Portfolio. The key takeaway is it's learner-centric. It allows faculty, instructors, reviewers, assessment committees, whoever, to interact with the evidence that is submitted by the learner. So it's really deeply integrated with Brightspace platform. So how do you use Brightspace Portfolio? There's two real main ways of doing this. First of all, the learning environment, which is Brightspace. This will be where most of your users will interact and upload their work. Don't let it be confusing. You can use like a tablet, iPad, device, whatever, to upload your work into your portfolio. There's also a mobile application that you can download, which is iOS or Android specific. This is really meant for capturing video, audio with your smartphone for the most part, right? So we all have smartphones. It's not really a hardware-driven device. It's really your smartphone for the most part, or a device like an Apple iPad or something like that. So what can you upload into the Brightspace portfolio tool? You can use these different areas. You can upload files from your local computer. You can connect to Google Drive. You can connect to OneDrive. 3 major areas. So this will be where the vast majority of your learners will have work stored. So these are the major areas. And this is with the user interface, which is the learning platform, like a web browser on your computer. If you're using like the mobile application, this is where maybe you record like a 5-minute video of someone singing. I don't know, whatever they can do some artwork, I don't know. And they can use their phone, they can upload it, audio reflections, text reflections, they can categorize their work and so on. So both of those sources, the app and or user interface version, will all funnel into the same portfolio per course. So now let me show you some screenshots of what this may look like. You're probably like, what is this, right? Okay, so here's a student view. Here, you'll see that this particular student is in 2 courses. So I want to first point out, I say courses, you got to think outside the box maybe. Maybe you have a resume writing center. So it's a course technically, but it can be like all students are enrolled into this resume center, and you have someone that helps students write their resumes. So they would be in this course with the students would all be in there. And then they can, like, the reviewer of resumes, theoretically, in this use case, can submit feedback, and the student can see it, and they can, improve their resumes over time. That's just one random use case. So don't think of this just as courses, but at the most basic level, the portfolio tool are in each individual course. This learner right here, they have 2 courses. I'm going to start highlighting here, so hopefully you can see what I'm doing in a second. So here's course number 1, here's course number 2. And again, this is student view. The student can see they have 1 piece of evidence submitted. They've shared 1 piece of evidence with the person that's in this course with them, whoever that is. You're going to see that there are 2 reviewers. That's number 1. That's number 2. So both of these individuals may have provided feedback on the evidence that's submitted. And then again, artifacts that are submitted and shared. So this is screenshot 1 for a student. So once you actually go into a course, as you'll see here, I went into a course. The student would theoretically want to upload work to the portfolio. They could do so with the blue button here. They could, these are 2 different pieces of evidence that have been submitted. Again, this is all fictitious. I just made this up. You can see them here. You can see that it's shared with the person in the course because maybe the student doesn't want to share it. They can choose that. There's feedback left by the instructor. Again, I'm going really fast. I know you're going to cut me off if I don't. So let's go to the final view here for students, which is I'm a student. I have submitted my work. This is my work. It's just a basic Word document, whatever it may be. I can see timestamp information. I can leave audio feedback about my submission. Here's my written thoughts that I may have written. Over here on the right side, I can share it with the reviewer of my artifact. I can see their feedback. 2 different reviewers, see that right there, 1, 2. If there's a rubric used to assess the learner, it's right here. The student can see how they were assessed. I don't have time to get into it, but there's different types of rubrics you can build in Brightspace: holistic, analytical, points-based, and so forth. This is all fictitious. So this is a student view getting feedback from someone that's reviewed their work. If I keep going, the instructor view, this is the flip side. Instructor, faculty, assessment committee, whatever it is, whatever you want to call people. I would go into the course, remember the course, and I would see all the students listed here. In this demonstration, I just have 1, but theoretically, if you have 100, boom, they're all listed. You'll see that 2 artifact evidence has been submitted for me to review, pretend I'm the reviewer. I'm like, okay, someone wants me to review this stuff, great. And you can sort and view however you want here. If I keep flipping, you'll see that I'm the instructor. I can actually add portfolio work for the students. Maybe they have some kind of disability and you want to help them. You can do that. If I keep drilling down, I get to the instructor view. I see the inverse of what the student submitted. I can use this for assessment purposes and so on, what we saw earlier. But one thing I want to get to, because I'm almost out of time, right here, if you can see it, sorry if you can't see it, I can leave notes for myself that follow this evidence submission, or I can add it for my colleagues to see it that also look at this, but the student does not see it. So you can leave private comments on every evidence artifact submitted. So I know I'm at 10 minutes already, so I'm going to share this document with your team, Nan. It's going to have some resource links here, and done.
Thank you so much, Chris. I know this is, it's almost like speed dating or something. We just
It is.
hitting the surface like skipping a pebble across a pond. There's so much more we can go into all of that.
Yeah.
I'm going to just pause for 1 second. And I know there's been a lot of questions. One of them, and Chris, I don't know if you can answer this right off, but I only saw part of the question because it flashed by me so quickly. But the question is really, is this going to be available for everyone as part of the whole Brightspace package? So that, or is this something that we add on?
I'm not a rookie on mute, I promise. It is available for everyone. It really comes down to every campus will have their own roles and permissions, and you can dictate if you use the tool or not. So it can be turned on or turned off, basically. I would recommend it if you're going to use it.
Okay, fantastic. So let me now share my screen again, because I just want to, we have one more slide here, and I'm going to turn it over to Chilton for just a minute.
Just want to say hello. My name is Chilton Reynolds. I've been one of the co-chairs of the big group of this, and just want to say thank you very much to this group today. Excellent presentation, and all the time that you have taken to really focus in on learning recognition and e-portfolios. This is the final session. We've been doing this for 4 weeks now. This is our 4th symposium webinar, and we were thinking about ways that you can stay involved after this. Over the past 4 weeks, you've heard a lot of different ways to change some of the ways that you do assessment, and so wanted to offer a 4-week assessment challenge that'll actually start next week. Each week there'll be a challenge for you to think about how you could incorporate a new type of assessment strategy into your courses for the fall semester, possibly summer. That might be a little quick of a turnaround. We were thinking more of the fall, where if you want to take some time to think about that, we can help you through the process. So one of our presenters today, Gina Solano, has volunteered to help out with anybody who's interested in e-portfolios. We do have other members from the other subgroups that are willing to give some feedback as well. So if you would like to do that, our plan is to actually send out emails weekly on this to everyone that's attended any of our webinars and just say, hey, here's what's going to happen for this week. If you want to join and participate, you can through this Padlet. If you just kind of want to watch and see whatever the people are doing, you're more than welcome to. But want to have a chance for you to be able to kind of think through, now that I have some ideas about assessment, what can I do with it moving forward? So just want to take a second to let everybody know about that, and we'll be moving forward with that starting next week, and look forward to seeing those that can participate and want to participate, and also understand if you don't, because there's a lot going on over the next couple of weeks. Our goal also is to keep this open later, so that if you want to do it later in the summer, you can do that as well. I will go back and add the Padlet link into the chat, and we'll be sending out an email with that Padlet beginning of next week as well.
And Chilton, would you also put a plug in for CIT with the presentation there as well?
Thank you. So our overall group, the big group with all 4 of these subgroups in it, will be presenting at CIT. That's Conference on Instructional Technology. I believe we are on Wednesday afternoon. So we are on Wednesday, June 1st at 4:30, if I remember correctly. And we'll be sharing again some of the same things that we have been, as well as some of the findings we have from the 4-week assessment challenge, as well as sharing some highlights from the website itself. So we'll look forward to presenting and having some of you there if you're able to join us. So thank you, and thanks, Dan, for the reminder on that.
Thank you so much, Chilton. And I know we have a rich array of questions here, and I know that some of the presenters have been responding as well. I don't know if Nicole, Gina, or Nikki, if there are any particular ones that you would like to quickly bring up. We just have a few more minutes.
Yes, go ahead, Gina. I'm sorry, I had a Brightspace question. Can students access and use their portfolios post-graduation? That's a big concern that I've had to deal with at several other campuses, that if we have these students spend 4 years creating this amazing portfolio after they graduate, then do they lose access, or how can they transfer that so they can continue to build on that in their professional career?
I just sorry, I was typing up the answer for you. I just put it in chat. So that feature is something that we're working on adding to the Brightspace portfolio tool in the future. So right now, it's really more system-based, inside of Brightspace.
Okay, thank you.
And just a note, I think I answered everyone's question. Sorry if I missed one. I think I got them all.
Okay. And John, I saw that you were promoting a little bit more about CIT, and then there's also other FACT2 presentations at CIT. I don't know if you want to jump in quickly and just do an overview of that.
Yeah, I don't remember when, but I do remember that the group that worked on social justice assessment also have a separate CIT session. So it'll be on the schedule though.
Okay, great. And Chilton said he would share the Padlet link, and there it is in the chat. And he said that it would also be sent out. So as you can see, this is a very rich area when we think about the innovative assessment as the whole group and the 4 subgroups that came out of it. There's an amazing amount of information. I really encourage you to go and spend time on the website. There is it, and we can put that link in the chat again. And if you can't find it, you could reach out to any of us, or also just search for SUNY Innovative Assessments, and I think you can find it that way as well. I really encourage you. There's a lot of resources. And as Janet mentioned, just for our section on the e-portfolios, Janelle gathered a lot of information everywhere from what's happening with some organizations and some policies, and then also examples from different institutions. We will be putting these links to the recordings on the website as well, so that will become part of our resources. as well as I think Chilton will be sending out an email as a follow-up to everybody who participated with all of that information. We just really encourage you to be thinking about the ways in which these different aspects can be used within your classroom, and really thinking about the role of assessment as part of the learning process. Gina, I see that your hand is up, and then Chilton.
Sorry, I do want to put a plug in for the Brightspace portfolios, because I forgot to mention, I wanted to mention that portfolios have been used in our departments also for accreditation purposes. And so it is a great way to have artifacts that you can show for your own campuses and your own programs accreditation purposes. And even though it may not be something that can transfer, it doesn't take a whole lot of effort to have students in their capstone courses to, create an assignment where they're selecting the best from their college experience to put in a professional portfolio to share out to potential employers. So there still is value to using the university-based one, especially because everybody in your school and department will have access to it. And that's a big deal, is having that access, especially if they want to put things in it from different courses and in different programs and different departments and things like that. So students are only having to manage one space instead of multiple different platforms. So there's great uses for it. And I encourage anyone to start thinking about it, just because it's simple to learn one skill instead of many different websites. Thank you.
Thank you, Gina. And Chilton.
I just want to say two things. One, part of the reason we've been talking a lot about this website is we want this to be a resource for us in SUNY. We have actually a link at the top of it where you can share your own assessments too. So if throughout this series or today you're like, oh, I do something similar to that, we would love to hear about it as well. We want this to be a repository where we can share things that are happening across SUNY with innovative assessment types. And you're like, well, I've been doing this for a long time, but if it's in here, we would love to hear about it, because I think it's really important that we share across SUNY how we're doing assessment in our classrooms to help support others who might need those ideas. The second thing I'll say is we have been recording all these sessions, and those are also housed in the website. So if you want to be able to come back and view these videos again, or see the PowerPoint presentations that either Nan or Chris had for today, those will also be housed in the website, so you can access those later. So thanks. I just wanted to say those two things.
Thank you so much, Chilton. And again, we have a rich amount of information and comments and questions that are in the chat. The group, we will have this recorded. We will have all those comments. We're going to summarize those, and then we'll be able to, anything that didn't get addressed, we'll get back out to you easily. This could have been a much longer presentation, obviously, but we've got a lot of opportunity. Kim, I see that you have also kind of popped on, and I'm going to put you on the spot for 1 second. But we've got a lot of people wanting to know more about the ePortfolio system in Brightspace. Will there be some professional development opportunity that will have a longer look at that?
So absolutely, yes. I think everybody's aware we're focused on kind of the essentials and kind of fundamentals training in Brightspace first, but this is definitely on the list for more training. If it's helpful, not to volunteer Chris's time, but we have been doing some topical webinars as needed on this. So we could at some point come back and do a deeper dive on this, but right now I think we're all kind of focused on supporting those cohort 1 campuses that are getting ready to launch their pilots.
Thank you so much. And Janet, do you have anything else you would like to add before we close?
Yes, I think that, Nan, we're lucky that you were on board with us. So thank you very much. And
Well,
thanks
thank
to all
you,
who
Nan.
attended.
Thank you, everybody, for your time. It's been we really have appreciated it. And again, we will be putting all of this together and sharing it out. So thanks again, and have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you, Nan.
Bye-bye.